Your brothers throw you in a well to die. You're sold as a slave in a foreign land. Your master's wife sexually harasses you daily, and when you refuse her advances, she fabricates evidence and has you imprisoned. You rot in a cell for years, forgotten by everyone you helped. Then destiny shifts. You rise to power, and those same brothers who wanted you dead come crawling back, desperate and hungry, completely at your mercy. This is not a parable. This is Prophet Yusuf's actual biography, preserved in the Quran with such forensic detail that Allah calls it the best of stories. The reason this narrative was immortalized is not to entertain, but to instruct. Every verse is a lesson in how to navigate toxic people without becoming toxic yourself, how to be betrayed without becoming a betrayer, how to be wronged without becoming wrong. Most people trapped by toxic relationships make one of two errors. They either fight back with equal toxicity and become bitter, or they collapse under the pressure and become broken. Yusuf did neither. He remained soft without weakness, firm without cruelty, wise without cynicism. By the end of his story, he had transformed every enemy into an ally, every trap into a door, every devastating loss into preparation for impossible gain. The question is how, and the Quran shows us step by step. The jealous siblings who want you gone. The story begins with a dream. Young Yusuf sees 11 stars, the sun and the moon prostrating to him. His father Yaqub, himself a prophet, immediately recognizes this as prophetic vision and warns him, "Do not tell your brothers about this dream." But the brothers already sense something. They see that their father loves Yusuf differently, and that difference eats at them like acid. The Quran records their internal conversation with chilling honesty. Yusuf and his brother are more beloved to our father than we, although we are a group. Indeed, our father is in clear error. Kill Yusuf or cast him out to some land, so the face of your father will turn to you, and you will be after that a righteous people. Their logic is pure toxicity. Eliminate the preferred one so we become the preference. Then we'll repent and everything will be fine. This is the first category of toxic person you will encounter. The one whose jealousy is so consuming that your success feels like their failure, your light feels like their darkness, and the only solution they can imagine is your elimination. Not your humbling, not your reduction, your complete removal from the equation. Yusuf's response was not to fight for his father's affection or to expose his brother's murderous intent publicly. When the brothers proposed taking Yusuf out to play, Yaqub resisted, saying he feared they would be heedless and a wolf would eat him. The brothers mocked this concern, insisting they were a strong group who would protect him. Yaqub reluctantly agreed, and Yusuf went with them, knowing the danger but unable to prevent what was decreed. Here is the first principle. When dealing with jealous people, naming the danger clearly does not always prevent it, but it establishes truth on record. Yaqub said, "I fear they will throw him in a well and a wolf will devour him." He didn't say, "My sons are murderers." He described the outcome he feared. This distinction matters because it identifies the threat without declaring war. You can fear someone's capacity for harm without condemning their entire character, which leaves space for future reconciliation if they change. The brothers took Yusuf, threw him in the well, then returned with his shirt covered in fake blood, claiming a wolf had killed him. Yaqub didn't believe them. The Quran records his response as, "Rather, your souls have enticed you to something, so patience is most fitting." and Allah is the one sought for help against what you describe. He knew they were lying, but he didn't retaliate. He didn't disown them. He exercised sabr, patient perseverance, and placed the matter with Allah. This is the second principle. When toxic people lie about what they did to you, your job is not to convince everyone of the truth. Your job is to maintain your own integrity and let time reveal what it will. Yaqub could have beaten his sons, expelled them, or spent years trying to prove their guilt. Instead, he grieved, he waited, and he trusted that Allah sees what people hide. The predator who uses power to exploit. Years pass. Yusuf is pulled from the well by a caravan and sold in Egypt. The man who buys him, a high-ranking official, tells his wife to honor Yusuf's stay, sensing something noble in this foreign slave. Yusuf grows into a young man of extraordinary beauty, and the official's wife notices. The Quran does not romanticize what happens next. It describes predation with clinical precision. She locked the doors. She positioned herself between him and escape. She said, "Come to me," not as invitation but as command. This is the second category of toxic person, the one with power over you who weaponizes that power to violate boundaries. She was his employer. He was property in her house. The doors were locked. This is entrapment, not seduction. Yusuf's response is recorded in one devastating sentence. He said, "I seek refuge in Allah. Indeed, He is my master who has made good my residence. Indeed, wrongdoers will not succeed." 3 moves in one breath. First, he invoked a reality higher than her authority. "I answer to Allah, not to your desires." Second, he reminded himself of the good he had received in that house, grounding himself in gratitude to resist temptation. Third, he declared the outcome. Wrongdoing fails eventually, even when it seems to win temporarily. When someone with power over you demands you violate your principles, you cannot fight them on their terms. If you argue desire against desire, power against power, you lose because they hold the stronger position. You must shift the entire frame to an authority they cannot touch. Yusuf didn't debate whether the act would be pleasurable or harmful. He invoked Allah, making the conversation about ultimate reality rather than immediate opportunity. But principle alone was not enough. The Quran says, "They raced to the door, and she tore his shirt from the back." He ran. He didn't stay to preach to her. He didn't try to convert her to righteousness in that moment. He recognized that some situations cannot be managed, only escaped, and there is no shame in running from danger when the danger is real. At the door, they encountered her husband. In that instant, she flipped the script with breathtaking speed. What is the recompense of one who intended evil for your wife, but that he be imprisoned or subjected to painful punishment? She accused him of the exact crime she had attempted, projecting her guilt onto him in real time. This is the third category of toxic person, the one who commits the harm, then accuses you of it, who turns their attack into your fault, who makes you the villain in the story where they are the victim. Yusuf did not match her energy. He stated his truth in one calm sentence. "It was she who sought to seduce me." No hysteria, no counter-accusations, no attempt to destroy her reputation to save his own. Just fact, spoken once, then silence. A witness, a relative of hers, examined the evidence. The shirt torn from behind rather than the front, and confirmed Yusuf was telling the truth. He was fleeing, not pursuing. Here is the third principle. Truth does not need volume or repetition. Truth needs clarity and evidence. When falsely accused, resist the urge to defend yourself at length or attack the accuser with equal venom. State the truth once. Present the evidence if you have it. Then stop talking. Over-defense makes you look guilty. The truth, if it is truth, will surface without your frantic effort. The husband realized what had happened and told Yusuf to ignore the incident, to let it pass, to move on, and Yusuf did. He didn't demand punishment for her. He didn't insist on public vindication. He accepted the injustice of being blamed for something he didn't do and returned to his work. This restraint is not weakness. This is strategic wisdom. Not every wrong requires retaliation. Sometimes the win is walking away with your soul intact. The conspiracy that recruits others against you. But the story was far from over. The women of the city began gossiping, saying the official's wife was so obsessed with her slave that she had lost all dignity. Humiliated by the rumors, she invited these women to her house, gave them fruit and knives to cut the fruit, then brought Yusuf into the room. The Quran records what happened with almost comedic precision. When the women saw Yusuf, they were so stunned by his appearance that they cut their own hands instead of the fruit, exclaiming, "Perfect is Allah, this is not a man, this is none but a noble angel." The wife then said to them, "So that is the one about whom you blamed me. I did seek to seduce him, but he refused. And if he will not do what I order him, he will surely be imprisoned and will be of those debased." This is the fourth category of toxic person, the one who recruits allies to pressure you, who turns individual toxicity into mob action, who uses social proof and public opinion as a weapon. She admitted her guilt openly now, but framed his refusal as defiance worthy of punishment. The women, having seen his beauty themselves, became complicit in the pressure. Yusuf faced a choice: submit to what these women demanded and preserve his physical freedom, or refuse and accept imprisonment. His response was a prayer. "My Lord, prison is more beloved to me than that to which they invite me. And if you do not avert from me their plot, I might incline toward them and be of the ignorant." Here is the fourth principle. When surrounded by people pressuring you toward corruption, sometimes the only choice is to accept the lesser harm. Prison damages the body temporarily. Sin damages the soul permanently. Yusuf looked at his options with clear eyes and chose temporary suffering over permanent destruction. Notice also what he didn't say. He didn't claim he could resist them through willpower alone. He said, "If you do not avert their plot from me, I might incline toward them." He was honest about his weakness. He knew that pressure sustained long enough breaks most people, so he asked Allah to intervene where his own strength would fail. This is not passivity. This is tactical honesty. You cannot fight every battle with human capacity. Some battles require divine intervention, and wisdom is knowing which is which. The officials decided, despite knowing his innocence, to imprison him anyway. The Quran is blunt. Then it appeared to them, after they had seen the signs, that they should surely imprison him for a time. They saw the evidence of his innocence. They knew the truth. And they imprisoned him anyway because it was politically convenient, because it silenced the scandal, because protecting reputation mattered more than protecting the innocent. This is the brutal lesson the Quran does not soften. Sometimes you do everything right and still lose. Sometimes toxic people win. Sometimes justice is delayed so long it feels like it will never come. Yusuf spent years in that prison, and the text does not tell us he was immediately rescued or vindicated. He waited. He endured. He served other prisoners, interpreted their dreams, called them to worship Allah, and remained useful even in the pit. The reversal when power shifts. The prison years passed in silence until the king had a troubling dream that none of his advisors could interpret. A former prisoner who Yusuf had helped remembered him and mentioned his ability. Yusuf was summoned, interpreted the dream correctly, and predicted 7 years of abundance followed by 7 years of famine. The king, impressed by his wisdom, appointed him treasurer of Egypt, placing him in control of the entire kingdom's resources. Then the famine came. It spread beyond Egypt to neighboring lands, including the land where Yusuf's brothers lived. Desperate and starving, they traveled to Egypt to beg for grain. They stood before Yusuf, now dressed in authority, and did not recognize the brother they had thrown in a well decades earlier. But Yusuf recognized them immediately. Here is where the Quran reveals the final and most important principle. Yusuf had absolute power over the brothers who had tried to kill him. He could have had them arrested. He could have let them starve. He could have revealed his identity and watched them collapse in terror. Instead, he gave them the grain they needed. He treated them with dignity. He tested them subtly to see if they had changed, asking them to bring their youngest brother Benjamin on the next trip. When they returned with Benjamin, Yusuf privately revealed his identity to Benjamin, but not to the others yet. He placed a royal cup in Benjamin's bag and then accused him of theft, using this as a pretext to keep Benjamin in Egypt. The brothers pleaded, offering themselves in his place, and their father Yaqub back home wept so much from losing another son that he went blind from grief. Finally, when the brothers returned yet again during the famine's worst period, broken and desperate, Yusuf revealed himself. The Quran records his words, "I am Yusuf, and this is my brother. Allah has certainly favored us. Indeed, he who fears Allah and is patient, then indeed Allah does not allow to be lost the reward of those who do good." They were horrified, realizing what they had done and that he now had power to destroy them. They said, "By Allah, certainly has Allah preferred you over us, and indeed we have been sinners." And Yusuf's response is the pinnacle of the entire story. "No blame will there be upon you today. Allah will forgive you, and He is the most merciful of the merciful." The principle of forgiveness from strength. Yusuf forgave not from weakness, but from power. He forgave not because he couldn't punish, but because punishment would serve no purpose. His brothers had lived for decades with the guilt of what they did. Yusuf had become who he needed to become. The past had already played its role. Revenge would add nothing but more pain to a story that was ready to transform into reconciliation. This is the final and hardest principle. When toxic people who once had power over you eventually end up powerless before you, you have a choice. You can repay harm with harm, or you can recognize that the entire painful journey served a purpose you couldn't see while you were suffering through it. Yusuf looked at his brothers and saw the full pattern. Their jealousy led to the well. The well led to Egypt. Egypt led to prison. Prison led to dream interpretation. Dream interpretation led to power. And power led to him being positioned to save his entire family from starvation. He told them explicitly, "You intended evil against me, but Allah intended it for good, to bring about what is this day. the saving of many lives. The betrayal was real, the pain was real, the injustice was real, and the divine purpose woven through all of it was also real. The brothers were not punished, they were fed. Years later, when Yusuf brought his elderly parents to Egypt and they all bowed before him in respect, his childhood dream was fulfilled, the 11 stars, the sun, and the moon prostrating before him. He raised his parents to the throne and said, "My father, this is the explanation of my dream from before. My Lord has made it reality." What the story teaches about toxic people. The Quran ends the story of Yusuf with this statement: there was certainly in their stories a lesson for those of understanding, not in his story, but in their stories. Plural, the jealous brother's story, the predatory wife's story, the false accusation story, the prison story, all of them together form one complete manual. When you encounter toxic people, you are not experiencing something unique. You are walking a path every prophet walked, a path the Quran preserved in detail so you would know it's survivable. The jealous sibling who wants you eliminated, the person with power who exploits you, the accuser who projects their crime onto you, the group that conspires to pressure you. All of these are archetypes, and Yusuf's response to each one is documented. You cannot control toxic people. You cannot fix them. You cannot love them into changing or reason them into decency. What you can control is whether their toxicity transforms you into something toxic or refines you into something stronger. Yusuf went into the well as a boy with dreams. He came out of prison as the man who would save nations. The toxic people didn't ruin him. They prepared him, though they intended the opposite. The brothers thought they were writing Yusuf's ending when they threw him in the well. They were actually writing his beginning. Every betrayal, every false accusation, every unjust imprisonment was a page in a story whose final chapter they could not imagine. And when that final chapter came, when power shifted and he stood over them with the ability to crush them, he chose something they never chose for him: mercy. This is what it means to handle toxic people without becoming toxic. You set boundaries with the jealous. You run from predators. You let evidence speak against false accusers. You choose lesser harm when conspirators surround you. You remain productive even in prison. And when you finally have